Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be creating some scroll animations using Framer Motion. So this is the project we're going to be creating. So we have this nice half effect, okay, and we also have parallax scroll, as you can see here, okay, and we have some horizontal scroll animations on these cards. We also have this review animation, okay, and the image is going to move away from the screen as we keep scrolling down, okay. As you can see, this horizontal scroll, this is coming from a different direction, and this one is also this one is coming from a different direction as well, okay. And we also have some nice text animation. The color is animated, the opacity is also being animated. As you can see, there's two different colors here, okay. Just going to blend in between the colors, the animation. And also down here we have the video section, which is also animated. You can play the video if you want to, okay. Yeah, you can keep scrolling down. Here we have this section here. There's a nice parallax, not parallax, a nice half effect, 3D half effect, okay. And we can keep scrolling down. There's more text animations, okay. Yeah, that's basically it for this project. It's just mainly scroll animations, how to do scroll animations and stuff. And if you are new to this channel, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. And yeah, I'll see you in the video. All right, so I've already created my project and I've also added the images that we're going to be using in the public folder. I've also removed all of the stuff that was in the page.tsx. Okay, so as you can see now in the browser, we have nothing. So there's nothing in our project. So we're going to start everything from scratch. So we're going to be using style components for styling, but you can use any styling methods that you want. You can use Sass, you can use CSS modules or normal CSS. That's entirely up to you. Yeah, let's start in the app. Let's create a new folder. It's going to be the components folder, components, and then we're going to start with the header section. So here is our header. So we're going to start with that. Here I'm going to remove these two imports here. I'm going to get rid of those imports. So we're just going to have the main in the page. Okay, so let's start with the global. I'm just going to define a few variables. So global CSS in here. So let's define in the root, we're going to define some variables in here. So in this case, in this project, I'm going to be using only two variables, but all of the colors that we're going to be using, you can put them in variables if you want to change them later. Let's start by doing a basic page reset. So I'm pretty sure you know this by now. Just getting rid of the margins and the paddings on everything. That's the star selector. So that means everything. And in the body, I'm just going to set a font size in the body, a default font size, and then a color of the text. Okay, so that's the default color of the text and font size, and the background color, which is the dark color. There it is. Okay, so for the buttons and the inputs, I'm also going to reset, getting rid of the borders and outlines. Okay, that's it. So now let's create some folders in here. I'm going to do button. It's going to be a button component, and then I'm going to create another folder. So this one is going to be, let's start with the header. Okay, so in the header, we're going to create a new file. So it's going to be header.tsx. Okay, so this is going to be a client component. So we're going to say use client. Okay, client. And then it's going to be a functional component. Okay, so now we have the header. Let's go to here, get rid of the main. It's going to be a fragment. And then we're going to render the header in here. Header. There it is. Okay, so now let's save. We should have a header. There it is. Our header is there. It's showing. So in the header component, we're going to start with, let's start with the nav. Okay. I've also installed start components. So if you want to install start component, just run npm install. So if I go to the package.json, just run npm install start components, and then we're going to use Framer Motion. So npm install Framer Motion for the animations. Okay, so now in the header, let's start with the nav. So here I'm just going to do nav, and then we're going to have a div. So it's going to be logo. Okay, so we're going to do an image. It's going to be next image. And then the source is going to be logo. Okay, so here, logo, we need to import that. So we're going to import logo. I think, I'm not sure if this is the correct path. Let me double check. Public, it's a PNG. Let's see if this is a correct path. It is a correct path. Okay. So now let's give it a width of 36. 36, and then get rid of the height. So it should show nicely. Here's our logo. Okay. So we have the logo. You can, do an H2 here. H2, and then you just say logo. Okay. So that's it for the logo. Now we're going to have UL nav items. Okay. So nav items. We're going to have li. So you can make this nav item a component, but in this case I'm not teaching you how to do this, so it's mainly doing scroll animations and stuff. So but yeah, you can make these nav items a component. Okay, I cannot find a hash. Okay, I found it. So now we're going to have home. Okay, so we're going to have home, about, marketplace. Okay, and then I'm gonna paste. Okay, so there it is. So we're going to also have a button here. This button is going to be reusable. So let's go to the button component. Let's create a button .tsx. Okay, so button.tsx. Oops, make sure the spelling is correct. TSX. It's going to be a client component. Use client. And we're going to do React functional component and export. So that's a button. We are going to render the button in here. Button. Okay, so make sure you import the button. So we have the button. It should show somewhere. There it is. There's our button. Okay, so now what we need to do is style this. So we are going to say const header. So make sure the spelling is correct. Header styled equal to styled. It should be a header. Should be a header. Okay, so styled or header. My keyboard is weird, so it doesn't have F keys like F1, F2. So I have to hold two keys to do that. So we need to import style components up here. So import styled from style components. So we take this header styled and then replace the outer div. That's our header. Nice. Now what we need to do in here is just to do the initial header styles. So let's start with the nav .nav. Okay, so nav, I don't know what class I've named it, so it's code class. It doesn't matter anyway if you don't give it a class. That's the only nav we have, so we can just do nav. So nav, I'm going to give it a padding, a min height, and a border bottom. So the border bottom is the variable color border we've defined in the global. There it is. And I'm going to display flex and justify space between all of the elements and align items to center, so it's nicely centered. Okay, so we also need to display flex the logo as well, and center align and give it a gap of 1 rem. Okay, like this. Nice. So it's display flex and then the gap is 1 rem. Okay, and I'm going to target the. So what we also have is we need to we do the nav items. Okay, so nav items, I'm gonna copy the class name. Nav items, I'm going to display flex and give it a gap of 2 rem. And then I'm going to do an li, target the li within the nav items. And then I'm just going to give it a transition for the animation. transition, and then let's do the hover. When we hover, I'm going to give it a color of white and make it scale like 1.1 of the original scale. So when I hover, it's scaling. Nice. So yeah, it's coming close. Okay, so it's scaling. So now what we need to do also, we need to do the input. So as you can see in the original one, there's like an input. So that's what we need to do. Okay, so here there's a search input in here. So we need to put that in. Okay, I'm just looking to where I can put the input. So I can put here. I'm gonna say dot input. And then here we're just going to have input tag and then search as a placeholder. Okay, I'm just going to copy this class name. We need to style this. So before nav items, we're going to style the input. So for the input, I'm thinking let's do flex2 to take twice the size of the other space. Like here, it's taking twice the size of the items here. Okay, so we need to make sure it's 100% width, the input itself. But in this case, I'm just going to put to 55% of the flex2 width. So let's inspect this. So if we inspect, you're going to see the input, it has a lot of width, okay? So in that case, we're going to only give the actual input a width of 55%. Okay, so we're going to target the input within the input class and give it a width and the background and the border color. Okay, and the background color, I mean. So there it is. It's looking nice. Let's give it a border and then use the variable that we've used for the border. And then I'm going to style the placeholder, and then give it a font weight of 500. There it is. Okay, it's coming nice. Let's what else do we need here? For now, let's just style the button. Okay, so for the button, I'm going to say const button styled equal to styled button. Okay, I need to hold another key as well to do this. Okay, so we need to also import styled from styled components, and then I'm just going to copy this and then replace. Okay, so save. So now we just need to style this button component. Let's start. So this button is going to, well, let's create an interface for this button. Okay, so let's do interface. So button, we can name it button props because it's going to have props. So we're going to have name. It's going to be a string, and then we're going to have an icon. So the icon is going to be optional. Okay, and then background is going to be optional as well, and then we're going to have a color. It's going to be optional as well, and then a border. It's going to be optional as well. Okay, nice. Now let's save. So now in here, we're just going to destructure the props. Okay, so now we have our props. Now what we need to do is do the button. So let's start with, in here, I'm gonna say if we have an icon, we display the icon. So I'm gonna do icon. If we have icon, we will display the icon. And then I'm just gonna put the name of the button here. Let's do the styles as well. So style. So for style, I'm gonna start with the background color. Background, you can name background color or it doesn't matter. And then color, border, like that. And then we save. So now we have our button. We just need to style this. Let's give it a padding. So padding and a border radius and a border of 2 pixels. So this border, you can also make it a prop if you want to. And then let's give it a cursor and display flex and center everything. Okay, so there's our button. It's coming out nice. And then on hover, let's make the color to white. Okay, so nice. So our button is there, but we have an error now because the button, it has an interface which is a name is required by default. That's why we have an error here. So let's give it a name. So for the name of this button, let's name it connect wallet. Okay, so connect and name connect wallet. So the name is required, so now we don't have an error anymore. So the other thing we need is react icons. Okay, so react icons, let's copy, install react icons. Okay. So it's while it's installing react icons, let's import the icon that we want from react icons. So in this case, we need FA rocket and FA wallet from react icons. Okay, so let's do icon. We can do FA, I think wallet for this one. Okay, that's our icon. What else? Let me just double check if that's the correct icon. Yeah, that's the correct one. Icon. Okay. Why is it giving error? Oh, icon is not assignable to type of string. Wait, what did I set icon? Oh, icon should be a node, a React node. React node. So React dot node dot React node. React node. Okay, perfect. So now we shouldn't have that error anymore. And when we go back, we should have an icon which is not showing. Let's see why our icon is not showing. Inspect. By default, we actually need to give this a background color maybe. But anyway, icon is not showing. But we do have the icon. Okay. We need to install the proper FA. FA. Can't remember which one is FA. I think we need to install these icons individually. I can't remember how. Home. Oh, because we're not running the project. Okay, so now we should be running the project. So now let's refresh this. We should be able to see an icon once it finishes loading. Okay, it's going to take a while to load. Anyway, let's do something else. So now, after we have the icon, I'm going to set a default background. So let's go to the button. I'm going to set a default background on this background, okay? So the default background I'm going to set equal to, I'm going to put our variable color BG. That's going to be our default icon color. So this is our default, okay? Our button color. So it's going to be this background of the website. So nice, showing nice. Otherwise, if you don't define the background, this is going to be the color that's going to be there. Perfect. So now we have our button. So now let's see, what else do we need to do in the input here? Nothing in the input. So yeah, what we need to do now, I think the font family is different. So let's do a font. I'm just trying to figure out what font we can do. Oh, well, we can do fonts later anyway. So now let's just focus on the content of the header. Okay. So for in the header, we're going to do header content. After the nav, so header content. So header content, I'm going to do a different font for the header. Okay, so let's import a Google font. Okay, so let's import a Google font up here. We're gonna say const Abril. So that's the font we're going to be using. Abril fat face. Fat face. Yeah, that's the font. And then we're gonna do this. And then here we're just gonna say subsets. It's gonna be Latin, just Latin. And then we're going to give it a weight of 400. And then to use this, we have an error because I think we need to import this. Oh, it's already imported anyway. So let's use it first. So in here, in the content, I'm going to do an H1. Okay, so let's put this in a div, and then let's do an H1. And then in here, we're just going to put a text like this, and then I'm going to give it a class. So for I want to put the font. I'm going to do style. Oh, no, the name of the font, and then dot class name. Okay, so save. So we still have an error. I have no idea why we have an error. It should be weight, not weights. 400. It should be a string as well because we're not doing a lot of weights. So if you want to do weights, you can do this. I don't know if it is many weights or it is only one weight. So I'm just gonna leave it at 400 like this. Okay, get rid of the comma here. Yeah, we shouldn't have an issue now. Okay, so now it's working. We should have the header with the correct font family. Okay, perfect. So now what we need to do is I'm just gonna put a p tag after the header with random text. Okay, so you can put any random text that you want here. And then I'm going to have buttons container buttons. So we're going to render buttons. So make sure you import button. Okay, and then you put whatever colors you want. So I'm just going to paste in the button here with the props. So this is the background for this button. We haven't imported this button yet. And then paste, and then okay. So now there's the button. This button does not have a border or a background color. It's optional. So let's save. As you can see now, we have two buttons that are different. Perfect. So now we need the image section here. So buttons. After that, we have this section here. And then here, we're going to have the image content. So I'm going to do a div in here with the class of image. Okay, and then I'm going to render an image. Okay, so I'm going to render an image. So I think we've imported this image already from Next. So save. Oops. Self-closing. So we've imported image from Next somewhere here. Okay, import image from Next. Okay, so nice. We should have this image. There it is. So it's coming from public. So you can do like this. Okay. Because stuff coming from the public is by default, we can access it like this. Okay, which is public and then images. So public and then images and then the image name. Okay, so now that's that for the image. We just need to style this. Okay, so let's copy this header content header content nav. I'm gonna collapse the nav. I'm gonna do header content. So for the header content, let's start with display flex and give it a gap of 4 rem. Okay, so there it is, display flex. And also we're going to give it a min height of 90 vh. So we're just gonna do 10 vh. Okay, so this is gonna be min height, because the nav should also have a height of 10 vh, something like this. Okay, so that's why we're giving it a min height. Okay, so, and I'm going to give it a padding. So we're gonna do padding. I'm gonna do padding. So padding top, I'm gonna do 0 top, and then I'm gonna do 10 rem right, and then bottom I'm gonna do 5 rem, and then left I'm gonna do 10 rem. Okay, like that. So it's looking nice. Okay, so we have the, I need to collapse this so I don't need to scroll much. I'm also going to collapse. Okay, I'm going to collapse these buttons. So we have the header content. So this one, I'm going to give it a class. I'm going to say text content. You can name it whatever you want. So text content, I'm going to collapse, and then we have the image content. Okay, so text content, I'm going to target the head h1. Okay, h1. I'm just going to give it a font size, which is going to be responsive. It's a clamp, so 2 rem, 5 viewport width, and 5 rem. That's the minimum is 2 rem, the max is 5 rem. So it's going to be responsive. So when I try to, reduce this width, it's going to also be responsive. Okay, I'm running a lot of things. That's why my browser is a bit laggy, because I'm running a lot of things in the background. Okay, so now I'm going to target the buttons. I'm going to do display flex on the buttons too. Okay, and then give it a gap. So there it is, there's a gap now. So now for this image, so we're gonna do image content, and then image content after the text content, image content, and then we're going to target the image. We're just going to give it a padding and a border, which we created the variable for the border already. Okay, so there it is. So there's a padding. Okay, so padding of 1 rem. After the padding, and then we'll put a border like this. Okay, so the image itself, the img image, we're going to give it a border radius of 8 pixels. Okay, let's save. So yeah, it's looking nice. So now let's work on this hover effect. Okay, so for the hover effect, I'm going to create a folder. Let's name this in app. Let's do utils. So in here, I'm just going to do hover.js. Okay, so it's going to be client use client. Okay, so we're going to import react. Okay, and the other thing that we need to do, we need to create a function. We need to export this function. Okay, export default function. So we're going to name this 3D hover. Hover 3D. Okay, so we're just going to mess around with the perspective. So let me show you what I mean. So when I go to the original, let's try perspective. So when we hover, we're just going to mess, with the perspective value, okay, to make the image like this. Okay, to make this hover effect, I mean. So we're just going to mess with perspective. Okay, so now let's go back here. So we are going to have a ref, okay, of whatever item. So this is the reference of the item for example, when I have the main, okay, so that's the reference of the, when I go outside the main, as you can see, the have effect is not working anymore, but the reference for this server to work is the main, so that's the ref. Okay, and then we need some values, so we need the x. Well, by default we're just gonna set that to 0. Let's do y, we're gonna set that to 0 as well, and then z, we're gonna set that to 0 as well. Okay, so I'm going to create a state for coordinates. Oops, I should be inside the function. So const code for coordinates. Okay, so we're setting our state by default as well. X value, we are setting that to 0, z 0, but in this case we don't need a z, we just need xy. Okay, so for the coordinates, and then we're just going to check if we're hovering the state. This is true or false, so is hovering. Okay, so by default it's going to be false. But by the way, you can import useState if you want, instead of using react.useState. That's entirely up to you. Anyway, we can just get rid of the react dot. We can just use useState. Okay, so now we're just going to do a mouse move. So const handle mouse move. Okay, so here we're going to say const, and then we're going to say offset. So okay, let me show you what I mean. So let's do cog and then e. That's the mouse move event. Okay, so that's for the mouse move event. We want to see what this event is. Okay, let's do and the mouse move here. What we can do is have a 3D. Let's go to, where can we use this? Let's go to the header. Oops. Hover 3D. Okay, there's no auto import. Okay. Hover 3D. Okay. Let's just make sure the input is correct. Here we need to just make sure the path is correct. It should be hover, not hover 3D. It should be just hover. Okay, so now let's save. We shouldn't have an error now, but what we need to do, we need to have an event listener for this and the mouse move. So we don't want to call this here. Okay, so we're going to say react.useEffect. Okay, useEffect, and then that's where we want to do the event listener. Okay, so in this case, let's just leave it as an empty array at the moment, but we're going to affect this using the ref. Okay, so for now, let's do a event listener. So let's do ref const. Let's do current coming from ref. Okay, so the ref of the item, so the current. So for example, if the current ref oops, this is a video I'm playing, isn't it? I'm gonna get rid of this. So current okay, so the current ref is going to be, let's say the header is the reference, so that's going to be our current. Okay, so here we're just going to do current dot add event listener and then mouse move, and then the handle mouse and the mouse move. Okay, and then we're just going to save this. Let's see. So we need to pass the ref in the header here, the ref. So let's create a ref. So const header ref. Okay, so we need to import use ref, use ref. Okay, like that. So we have the use ref. We just need to make sure it is HTML element. Actually, it should be HTML. It should be, I think, a div element. Div element, like that. Okay, and then copy this ref name, and then let's do the header. So let's pass the ref in there, and then paste it there. Okay. Now let's save. So now we should have a ref, which is this header, the header. Let's refresh here to see why we're getting errors. Pam, 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 pam. Why are we still getting errors? X undefined. Okay, let's go back here. I'm just gonna comment these out. See if we still get an error. There must be. I think we need to put our parameters. Actually, the ref. We need to put the ref here, because if we don't have the ref parameter, we actually need to put in here. Okay. So the ref should be. Oops, my keyboard is running out of battery. Here, I'm gonna cut this. I'm gonna put it here. I'm gonna do the header ref like this. Okay, now let's save. We shouldn't have an error now. Let's do 1. Okay, so now let's save. So every time I move a mouse, we are seeing something on the screen. So in this case, we want to get a few properties from here, from the mouse move. Okay. Okay, so we just need a few properties. So I'm gonna get rid of this. I'm also gonna get rid of the. I mean, I'll just leave it here. I'll just name this hero instead. Hero. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. I'm gonna. Oops. We'll put my keyboard charger. Just bear with me for a second. I'm going for a charger. Okay. So now we have the ref. So now let's continue to work on the hover effect. Okay. So we have the mouse move. I'm gonna uncomment here. Uncomment. I'm gonna save. Okay. So we have the mouse move in here. We're just going to get a few properties. So first, let's start with const, and then we're going to do offset height and offset width from ref to current, the current, ref, which is the hero, the header. And then we are also going to get client X and Y on the event. Okay, so these properties are coming from the event. You saw that on the console. Okay, and then I'm going to do some calculations. So X, for the X, we're going to do client X minus the width, which we don't have yet. Okay, and then we're going to do client Y minus height. Okay, so yeah, for this offset width, well, we're just going to put them in new variables. So I'm going to do width, and then for the height, I'm going to do height. Okay, so we're just going to get the height and the width of the current item. Okay, and then here we're just getting the position of the event, the mouse. Okay, the position, and then here we're just subtracting the width of the current ref, and then the height as well. Okay, and now I'm just going to set the coordinates, the state value, set coordinates to x and y. All right, and then we are going to handle const handle mouse enter. So when we put the mouse on the when entering the div, so here on mouse enter, we're going to set the state to true, the hovering state. That's basically what we need to do on mouse enter, setting the state to true. Okay, and then on mouse leave, we're just setting the state to false. Okay, and then we won't do the animation anymore. So in the use effect, we are going to wait every time the ref updates. So we're just going to fire the use effect. Okay, so we have the current ref, and then we have the current event listener, and then we have the mouse move, and also we need to add the event listener for mouse enter and also for mouse leave. Okay, and then here we're just going to do some cleanup. We're going to do return. We need to get rid of these event listeners. Okay, and then we get rid of these event listeners. Okay, and let's save. So now it's the moment of doing the animations. So here I'm going to do const. I'm going to do x. I'm going to change its name to x coordinate, and then the y to y coordinates, which coming from the coordinates, the state. Okay, so now I'm going to do const x transform. This one is terrible. Okay, so we're just checking if we are hovering, and then we multiply the x coordinate by x. Okay, so now we do the same thing for the y, and we also do the same. So if we don't have x, it's just going to be 0, and we also do that for the z. Okay, z. The autocomplete is so terrible. Okay, z, and then we're going to say const transform, and then we're just going to do a perspective equal to perspective. Okay, and then we're just going to set the perspective to 1000 pixels, and then we're going to rotate x. Okay, so for the x, it's going to be let's set that to y transform, for x transform, and then y transform. Okay, and then for the z, it's set to the z transform. Okay, so now let's save. By the way, so this should be the rotate should be in degrees, and then the translation should be in pixels. Okay, okay, so translate z pixels, and then rotate should be in degrees. Let's save. So we also need to do a transition property, just in case we might need to make the animation look smoother. So if we want to make it look smooth, we just do const transition, and then let's do based on hovering as well. So let's do if it's hovering, and then we set this transition. Let's do 0.3. Okay, const. So these properties, we need to access these properties. So we're just going to return these two properties, transform and transition. Okay, so what we're going to do, wait a minute, this shouldn't be in the use effect. I didn't realize I'm inside the use effect, so it should be outside the use effect. Okay, save. So, and then we return from this function, we're just going to return these properties. So we're going to return transform and transition. Okay, so now I think that's it for this hover. So now we need to go to the header where we need to do the hover effect. Okay, so the hero, I'm just looking where to do the hover. Okay, so header, I'm gonna do const, I'm gonna do hover hero. You can name this whatever you want, that's entirely up to you. Go to hover 3D, and then we put in the hero, which is the ref, which is the header. That's going to affect our hover animation. Okay, so for the x direction, I'm gonna do 30. That's our value for x. You can increase these values, you can experiment. And then z, I'm gonna do 30, but for the y, I'm gonna do minus 40. Okay, so we need to use this. How do we use this? Well, you just need to go to the element which you want to, do the hover effect on. So in this case, the element which I want to do the hover effect, it's going to be the image. Okay, image, this one, when I have this. So I'm going to do style. I want to do hover hero dot. Actually, no, I'm going to do transform, and then I'm going to do hover hero dot transform. It says from, but it should be transform anyway. Transform. Let's save this, and then let's go back and change it. Transform. Okay, I think I need to speed up this video because it's taking a while. Transform. Okay. Now, as you can see now, our hover effect is now working. Okay. Looks good. You can, lower these values. We also want to do the hover effect on the actual image. So as you can see here, the image and the border is different the way it's, moving. Okay, so we want to do the same thing. So for the image, we're going to give it slightly different values. I'm going to go back. Oops, I'm going to close the hover. I'm going to say duplicate this. I'm going to say image. Oops, image. Hover. So for the image, I'm going to do 20 for the x, and then minus 5 for the y, and then 11 for z. So you can experiment with these values. And then we also need a ref for the image. Okay. So you can name this ref whatever you want. I'm thinking, what should I name it? What should I name the image? Okay, so actually, no. We don't need to give the image a ref. We just need to put this property on the image. So let's go down. Class image. Okay, here I'm gonna do style. Okay, and then we're gonna do transform. Image hover transform. Okay, so now it's different. Okay, so the border and the actual image, it's looking pretty good to me. When you leave, there's no like half effect. You can, do the half effect in here when you enter. Like here, you can do transition. Uh, you can do the transition we've exported. Okay, but I'm not going to do that in here. I'll use the transition later. Okay, so yeah, that's for header. Now let's do the lines. As you can see, there's like lines in the background. So there are multiple ways to do this. You can use a loop to do the lines. But in this case, I'm thinking what I did to do the lines. I'm going to be using, I think I'll just use an array. Okay, so the array is going to have shapes of these lines. Okay, like a circle, X. So yeah, it depends. You can use a loop or you can use an array. That's entirely up to you. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go to, let's create a layout. Okay, let's go to the components. We need to create a layouts folder, or you can, I'm just gonna do it directly in the app. I'm gonna do layout. Oh, we actually have layout here already. So in the layout, we're going to create our custom layouts later anyway. So for now in here, we're going to do lines. So in the body, so our font family for the default is Inter. In the body, for the children, it's going to be after the lines. Okay. Children, oops. Just children. And then we're going to have lines. Okay, save. So we have the div of lines. So we're just going to create an array. So this array is going to have X, a circle X, circle X, circle X. So I'm just going to paste the array. Let's do it above here. My array. So like this. You can use this in a loop. You can do a loop with this, but I was just lazy. I chose the easy way. And then we have circle X like that, and then save. That's our array. So with a loop, if you have like a longer page, so a loop will come in handy to do that. But in this case, the page is not that big, so no need for that. So what I'm going to do in the lines, I'm just going to map. I'm just going to do dot line. Okay, I'm going to do line 1. So in the line 1, I'm just going to map. I'm just going to map this array. Okay, map through the array. Oops. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so the map. So we are going to have the shape index, and then in here we're just going to return a div. The key is going to be the index, and then the class name is going to be the shape, and then we save. Okay, so we're going to have 4 lines. So we're going to duplicate this 1, 2, 3 more times. So we're going to have line 4, line 2, no 3, and then line 2. So now we have 4 lines. So I'm just going to collapse. So we need to display flex these lines. What I'm going to do, we're going to style this, right? So where else can we style this? So let's go in the global lines. I'm going to set position of absolute, top 0, width and height 100% on the lines. And then I'm going to display flex and then justify content space evenly. Okay. And then I'm going to say pointer events to none. And then the z index, I'm going to set that to 0. Okay, that's for the lines, but we need to give them, a background color. So we have lines. So we have line 1, line 2, and line 4. So I'm gonna select the lines and then target line 1 up to 4, and then I'm gonna give them a width and a mean height of 100%, and then the background color of the border color. We should have those lines. There they are. Okay. So we need to set the z index. We need to set the header and sections. So let's start with section, and then we also need to do the header as well. Okay, so it's going to be on top of the lines. As you can see now, it's looking pretty neat. Okay, so now that's for the lines. We need to do the circles now, the shapes. Okay, so I'm going to select the shapes class. I'm going to select the shapes. So for the shapes, we're going to do same position absolute and give it a padding, top and bottom 10 rem, and then we're going to set top 0 and then translate this on the x minus 50, and then give it a display flex, direction to column. We should refresh, but we don't see our shapes yet because we have not created them, the shapes already. So I'm going to say lines and target the class name. So if I inspect here, if I go to lines, let me see if I can find them. Here, lines. So each line, it is like this shape. Okay, so I'm going to target the class names on each individual line. So I'm going to say dot lines, and then I'm going to target the circle shape, circle, and then I'm just going to style this, give it a width and height of 1 rem, and give it a border radius of 50%. And then I'm going to do the X shape. I'm going to give width and height of 1 rem, and then I'm just going to do an after pseudo element to make 2 shapes. Okay, so in this case we have the circles. Let's do the X. We just need to do a position absolute and then rotate to make 2 shapes like an X. Okay, and finally for the lines, then the before, like this. By the way, we don't need to repeat this position absolute and stuff. You can select the X and circle and put these properties together, but I'm just lazy. Okay, as you can see now, we have these shapes. They're looking pretty good. Okay, but the shapes are not really centered to what we desire. We need to make sure they're on the actual line. Okay. Okay, so shapes. So shapes should be display flex, just file content, space between. Okay. For some reason, it's not doing that. Let's do mean height, 100%. Okay, let me see why. Lines. Okay, so there should be in a class name called shapes. I forgot to include that class. So if we go back to the layout, so line in there, this array should be in shapes div. Shapes. Okay, so shapes, and do that. Shapes, paste, cut this, shapes, okay, and paste. So now they should be able to work. Okay, looks promising. Mean height, let's do height. Okay. So the reason why it's not really stretching, we have a lot of padding, top and bottom. So once the website starts to, go down more, it's going to start, to stretch more. Okay, so that's working. So now what we're going to do, we're going to go to the what section are we? So we're going to, oh, I don't know why I have this text here. We're going to go to this scroll section here. For that, we're going to be creating, let me see. So we have header. We're just going to create a main. Okay, so here we're just going to do main. We are going to say const main styled. It's going to be a main. Okay, so for the main styled, I'm going to copy this, replace here. That's the main section. We also need to import styled components. Okay, don't forget to use client. Okay, we might want to use some hooks in here. So we have the main. For the main, I'm just going to put a few styles. It's not going to be a lot. I'm just going to give it a mean height of 100 VH. And yeah, that's it. So now we should be able to scroll. As you can see, the items are stretching now. Okay. So now let's start with so we need a layout, okay, for all of our sections. I'm just going to create a section layout in the components folder. New file, section layout.tsx. So in here we're going to have some children because we're going to wrap our app with the section layout. So that's why we are doing children, because we're going to wrap our entire application with the section layout. So now we are just going to create an interface for this. Okay, let's do interface section layout props. We're going to have children. It's going to be react.node, and then we're going to have a ref. It's going to be ref object HTML development. Okay, and here we just destructured those props, and now we don't have an error anymore. So for the section layout, it's just going to have a padding. So I don't need to use style components in here. So I'll just put a padding, top and bottom, 5 rem, 10 rem left and right. Oops. Okay, so no need for the style components. Okay, so section layout, we're just going to use that to wrap our individual section. So section layout, here we're going to have a section. So our first section is going to be the horizontal scroller. Okay, so let's start with the cards. Let's do some cards. Okay, let's create a card component, card.tsx. So for the card, it's going to be use client as usual. I think I forgot to do use client somewhere. Anyway, if I don't use this, if I forget to do use client on components, let me know. I don't know why I forgot to do use client, but it's okay. It will give you a warning anyway. So for the card, I'm going to do a functional component. Let's do use client first. Use client. Okay, so I'm just going to uh, there's a lot of stuff in the card. I'm just going to do a card styled for style components. I don't want the video to be very long, so that's why I have to copy and paste some styles. So we're going to import style components, and then the card is going to have a title, image, okay, like that. So now I'm going to save this. We also, why am I getting an error? Okay, all elements unused. So in the card, we're going to have the image in the card. So we have the image, okay, so that's the image section with a width and height of 100%. And then I'm just going to have a p tag that says new in there. Div. Wait a minute. This should be card styled. Okay. So in here, I'm going to have a p tag that says new, and then the text, I'm going to put the props text. Okay. So we're distracting the props, but we haven't done the props yet, so that's why we have an error. So it's saying, we can create an interface for this, but I just didn't care. Okay, so now we are going to what else do we need in here? We're going to set do an image, so make sure you import image from next image. So image, make sure import this from next image, and then the source, we're going to put that to image, and then I'm going to do a style, give style, which with it's going to have a width of 100%. Okay, width 100%. Why am I getting an error? Let's close the image. Okay, so height 100%, width 100%, object fit cover, object position to center, and a border radius. So that's our card. Get rid of this. And then I'm going to have an overlay div. Okay, so the overlay is going to be this dark shadow at the bottom of the card. Okay, so now that's our card. So we don't have these props yet. So in this section layout, we're going to map through cards. Okay, so in the utils, we should have cards. I'm just going to paste it. So it's just I'm importing images, and then it's just an array of objects of each individual card. It has a title, description, and an image. Okay, and that's it. So we're just going to map through those cards in here and return a card component. Okay, so we're mapping, and then we're going to return a card. So make sure you import the card component. Okay, and then you save. Okay, what might be the issue here? Class name cards. So we haven't imported these cards yet, so we are mapping through nothing. So we need to import cards. I think it's default export. I think you choose cards like this. Should be. Let me see how I've exported this. Export const cards. Okay. Okay, so cards, section layout, ref. With section layout. Okay, let's make this optional. Okay, nice. So what else is bothering us? So, okay, let's just do an interface so we don't get this error. Okay, card props. So let's make this optional. So the title is not optional. All right. So our warnings should go away. Card here. So now we do name. Card.name, I believe that's name as title. Card.title, that's our name. This title. And then we do the same thing for other props. All right. So now that's our card image. So card.image. Yep. Okay. Source image. Static image data is not assignable to or just, you know what? Just get rid of the error anyway. So we should have the images. There they are. Okay, so it seems like our shapes are on top of the image. So we need to fix that. Section layout. Section layout, it should be a section. Okay, so the z index, it's on top now. So now we just need to start with this card. I'm just going to go fast on this one. So card, I'm just going to let's start with the position to relative, give it a border, transition, and then I'm going to target the new text and then give it a position to absolute. So the new text is going to be this small text up here. Okay, like that. We'll set the z index to 5 and give it a padding. And then I'm going to target the text, and then there's going to be an h3 inside the text. Okay, and save. So we should have the images that they are. Okay, so now overlay. So there's an overlay. After that, we paste overlay. We're giving it a width of 100% plus 4 pixels. And then the background is a linear gradient, and then a border bottom left radius of 8 pixels. Position of absolute. There it is. As you can see, it's dark at the bottom. Nice. So when we're mapping through the images in the page, cards, I'm just gonna copy the card because we have cards here, multiple cards. You just need to do a display of grid in here. You can do a flex or a grid display, but in this case, I'm just gonna do a grid of 5 columns and position of absolute. Okay, so now, as you can see now, we have the cards. Okay, So we have the cards. Now we just need to move on to the other section, this image section here. Okay, so for the image section, it's not going to be a lot of stuff, but we're still going to be using the layout. Okay, so let's do, actually for the image, let's do a full page component. Okay, so let's, in components, I'm just going to do full page.tsx. Okay, so make sure it's use client as well. So use client, React functional component, and export. Okay, and here we just need to have a div called image.image, and then we're going to import image from next image, and then I'm going to copy some properties, save. So the image, we're going to be using rover, which is coming from the public, and the alt tag is going to be monkey. Fill is going to be true, and then object fit to cover. Yeah, that's it for this section. We just need to style this image. So I'm going to say const full page styled. Okay, and copy this and replace this div. We just need to import the style components. Okay, so now let's save. We shouldn't have this issue. So now I'm going to target the image. Image. I'm going to give it a height of 1000 pixels, and the width of 100% plus 10 RAM, and then position to relative, and then give some border and a transition. Okay, so we should, never mind, we haven't rendered the component yet, but the image itself, I'm just going to give it a padding. Okay, so padding is going to be 1.5 RAM, and then when you hover the image, we're going to get this color here, the yellow color. So what we need to do now is we just need to render this component in page section layout. Let's render the full page here. Let's save. Hopefully we should have the image, which is not showing. Oh, it is there, but we'll set this position to absolute. Okay, so that's why we, it's like on top of this. So I'm going to get rid of the position absolute for now. So cards page, so cards position, let's get rid of absolute for now. Okay, so as you can see now, there's our full page. Okay, so here, inspect cards. Okay, so this section, then with the cards, not card, where are the cards? Cards. There they are. So the cards percent are absolute, and then relative should be on the section. Okay, so if we go back in the global section, should have a percent of relative. Okay, nice. Now what we need to do is go back to the page. We need to, okay, so we need to do a section layout. Section layout. Copy this cards. Actually, we need to do the same thing here. Copy the section layout with the cards. After the full page, paste the cards again. So we should have the cards again down here. Okay, Now after that, we are going to have a text section. I'm going to create another component in the app, text section section.tsx. I'm like really starving right now. I'm just waiting to do all of the basic structure and then stop the video. Use client. Okay, so for the text section, we are going to let's start with text. Okay, so for the text, I'm going to create a functional component. Okay, functional component. Oops. All right, so we are going to have let's do an interface. Let's just do props. So we have props, and then we're going to have children. Oops, there's a fly nearby. Children, and then I want to do react.node. I'm going to create a new function in here called text wrapper. It's going to wrap around our text. Okay, so props const text wrapper. It's going to be children props like this. Okay, so it's going to wrap around our text, and then I'm going to say const text equal to react.useRef. Okay, so it's going to be an HTML div element. Okay, so that's basically for the text wrapper. We just need to return okay, so yeah, we return. We're just going to return a div, and then here is going to be the children. Okay, because we're going to wrap the text with this text wrapper. Okay, so that's that, and then we have the text section, and then here we're just going to have some text which we're going to wrap around with the text wrapper. Okay, here just wrap some text you want to animate. So a block of text you want to animate by this text wrapper. Okay, so as you can see here, so each text is a block, okay, surrounded by the text wrapper. So that's what we're doing here. And then I'm just going to do a text section styled like this. And then I'm just going to target the p tag, and then I'm just going to set a font size and a gap. Okay, copy this, replace, and now we need to import. Okay, so this text is going to be a p tag later on when we do the animations. Okay, so yeah, I'll actually do here the children cut, and then do p tag, and then you put in the children in the p tag. So save. So now we need to render the text. We still need to surround that with section layout, and then that's where we put the text section. And we do text section like that. I don't know why there's an error here. Did you mean text? Oh, it's disappeared. It takes a while for it to. Okay, so now there's our text. Okay, nice. It's coming out nice. What we need to do now, we need to do the video section. So for the video section, I'm not going to create a new component for that one. I'm just going to surround this with a section layout, section layout, and then I'm just going to do an iframe. I'm going to do a div.video, and then I'm just going to get an iframe, do an iframe, and then put a link to the video you want to do. So in this case, it's my video, this video here. If you go to the website, it's going to start playing. Okay, so that's the video. When I click play, it's going to play. Okay, so that's the video. I'm going to save. So as we scroll down, you're going to see a video. There it is. It's not styled yet, so that's why it's looking a bit weird. Let's style that first actually. So I'm gonna select the class name, video, down here. So we're just going to give it a padding, background color, and style the iframe, get rid of the border, give it a width and a height. Voila, the video looks nice. There's a padding and a color. There it is. So now, after the video, we are going to have this section here. We're reusing this have effect here, the same effect we've done before. We're just reusing that. But before that, I'm just going to skip that section for now. I'm just going to put this text section, copy the text section. I'm going to put the text section now. And then finally, we're going to go for the footer. Okay, so for the footer, we need to do components, and then we're just going to do footer tsx. Okay, so it's going to be use client. Okay, functional component const footer styled. So this one should be a footer, and then we import style components. Okay, copy the footer styled and replace. Okay, so now that we have the footer, what we're going to do is we're going to do the nav. Okay, let's do nav. So it's going to be like a navigation, but it's going to be like a bottom nav. And then we're going to have the logo container, container, and then we're going to have an image in there. Image. So we have the logo itself. It's going to be an image. We just need to import the logo from public. Okay, like this. We're also going to import footer data. We're going to map through some data, so I'm just going to put that in the utils. So the footer is just the name and the link where you want to go to. Okay. So and also the title. Okay, so that's the footer. Save. We need to also import image from next image. All right, so now we also need to import some icons. Okay, so these icons coming from React icons. Save. All right, so now after the logo, we need to do the input. With this. Okay, so the input, it is an entity. Okay, so it is this entity, HTML entity here. So we go back, we just do the footer. We don't need to wrap it within the text section, within the section style. So we just do footer. Okay, and we should have a footer down here. There it is. So now it's time to style this. no style, I mean add more markup. So I'm going to add socials and a p tag after the button, after this div. Okay, I'm gonna do a p tag and then some icons. Disco is not there. We need to import that. It's not coming from AI, it's coming from BS. Okay, we should have those icons down there somewhere. Okay, so there's icons here. Now, finally, we just need to map through the links. Okay, I'm just going to paste in the block. So, down here. So we just footer.map item index. We're just going to return a div. The key is going to be the index. And why is there an error? Oh, you need to set it as just put any actually. So item, it should be any index, should be a number like that. So the text, we can do that as a string, and then here index can be a number because we're also mapping through again the links. Okay, so text or name does not exist. So text, let's check the footer data. So it's saying text, or it should be links.name. No, text.name does not exist on this type. Strange. Wait a second, let me try to do this. Now it's working. I don't know why it's doing that. Anyway, let's save. I'm not a TypeScript pro, so I have no idea how TypeScript works. I'm still learning TypeScript anyway. So now let's save. We should have some issues. Let's see what we have. Footer failed to compile. What's the error? Cannot find module. Utils because the path was wrong. So this one should be string because the path was wrong. That's why I think. All right, and no idea. Let's see. String. I'm just gonna leave it to any. Okay, so now let's go to here, down here. We're going to do this right. So it's going to be a p tag with 2 anchor tags. Okay, I'm gonna name it right, and it's gonna be AA. Okay, so let's refresh this. Okay, so now everything works. We just need to do some styling. I'm gonna set the position to relative and then give it a padding and a background and a border top like this. All right, so now I'm gonna target the nav. So the nav, I'm gonna do a display flex and give it a gap of 3 rem. And then I'm going to target the logo container in the nav. I'm also going to do a display flex, logo container, display flex, and then I'm going to set the input percent relative, and then I'm going to target the input class and the actual input like this, and then give it a background padding. So as you can see now, there's a nice padding, and then I'm going to target the button. So input and then button. So input button save. It is a percent of absolute, and then it's going to be percent here to the right side. Okay, so top 50%, right 2 rem, or leaving 2 rem space to the right side. And then I'm going to target the socials. So for socials, I'm going to give it a display flex and a gap of 1 rem. So as you can see, there's a gap of 1 rem. Okay. And then we're going to target the logo container. The actual logo, and we're going to display flex and a gap of 1 rem. And then we're going to target the links. We are going to give it a flex 1 to fill the remaining space and do a display grid. Give it 3 columns, and each is going to be equal. So 3 columns, 1, 2, 3. So when we inspect, you're going to see 3 grid columns. Okay, so there it is. So links, 3 columns. Okay, and finally, we're going to target the rights. It's going to have a border top. So links, collapse. So the rights, it's going to have a border top. There it is, but the class, it's, let me see if the class name is correct. Rights, yep. So it's not showing for some reason. Let's refresh this. Okay, I'm going to inspect here, down here. So rights, it's a p tag. Okay. Let me see why the styles are not showing for the rights. I'm gonna collapse all of these styles here so I can properly see. That is, oh, the rights is not in the nav. Okay, it's outside the nav. Now save. Okay, so now you can see now it's working properly. Okay, so yeah, that's the styles for the footer. The only thing that's left is that hover section here. We are reusing this hover effect, so it's going to be a little bit straightforward. So that section is called the zoom in section. Okay, it was supposed to be some crazy zoom in effect, but I just decided to stay with this effect here. Okay, so we might just change the name. Let's name it, you know what, I'm just gonna stick with the zoom section .tsx. Let's do use client. I was going to put a lot of animations, but I just realized the video was just going to be so long, very, very long. So yeah, I'm just gonna stick with a few animations. So in here, it's going to be functional component export. So we need to do a few things. We need to import the Hover 3D. Import Hover 3D. Hover 3D from utils. It should be just Hover. I don't know if this is the correct path. Yeah, it is. It is. And Hover. Okay. So I'm going to select the hero, a ref, use ref, okay, const hero. Okay, so this hero component is basically the this zoom section, the actual container. So let's give it a ref. Excuse me. Okay, so now we just need to render that in page between the video and the text. We need to do section layout, and then we're gonna do zoom section and save. Okay, so now we're just going to do zoom section styled .div, and then we import styled like that. All right, so we're going to have a few images. So I'm just going to set the position to relative, overflow to hidden, so I don't ever think anything to overflow the parent. Okay, this should be zoom styled. That's what I'm going to name it, styled. Okay, so save, and let's start with the images. So we're going to have class called image, and it's going to have a style, height. I'm going to set that to 50 rem, and then width, I'm going to set that to 100%. Okay, that's for the image. And then we're going to do image. So it's going to be like a responsive image. So I'm just going to paste the properties of the image. So we have the source, image, source. So it should be inside the div. Okay, so we have the source for the image, alt tag, fill, and another prop we need is sizes. So it's going to be a responsive image, sizes. So the max width is going to be 760 pixels, 100 VH, and then the max width 1200 pixels. And then I'm just going to style this image, style, object fit to cover, object position center, and then transition. Transform is going to be the parallax effect, which we have not done, so we need to create that. Not parallax, I mean the hover effect, const hover. So the when we hover the hero, and then now we just need to put the coordinates. So first off, hover, I'm gonna start with x, I'm gonna put that to 5, and then y, I'm gonna do 10, and then z, I'm going to do 4. Okay, so now we have the first hover effect. Which here transform. We have a transform, hover to transform, and hover to transition. Remember, we are returning the transform and transition from the hover effect function. Okay, so hero, there's an error. Hover 3D, there's no export, remember. Oh, it's the default export. We don't need to do this. So save. Okay, so we should have an image somehow with a hover effect. Okay, as you can see, there's something wrong with the transition. Let's get rid of the transition for now. Okay, so yeah, the hover effect is working. Okay, but it's not really working on the Z index. Let's increase this. Let's put it to 40. Let's see what's happening. Okay, Z minus 40, and Y, let's increase this to 20. Okay. Just experiment with these values here. So let me see here. Okay. Nice. I'm gonna bring back to, I just wanna make it subtle. Oops. I'm gonna bring it back to 5. Actually 4. Okay, let's do this. Let's do -5. Let's see what's gonna happen. Let's put this to 10 again. So yeah, just mess around with these values. So I'm gonna leave it like this, and then we're going to do hover number 2, hover 2. Here we're going to do 40, 20, and then maybe 7. Just mess around with these values here, and then we're going to do hover 3, and then mess around with the values. Okay, and then -7 here. All right, so now we just need to import to put more images. I'm just going to paste another image. After this image, I'm going to paste another one. Okay, so this is another image, and then a final image. Okay, so here are the images. So the other one needs hover 2, the other one hover 3, and so on. Okay, go back. So there they are. There's something wrong with the transition. Let's go and check it out. Hover. Okay, so transition, we set it to ease in and out. So let's just do ease for this one. Okay, so transition, ease, like that. Okay, so let's actually start with none. If we're not hovering, none, and then ease. Okay, and then let's save. You should. All right, not too bad. Still glitching a bit though. Okay, so what I'm going to do, let me try to invert this. So for the X, I'm going to do a Y transform for this one, and then do an X transform for this one. Okay, so just make them opposite. And for the Y, this one, I'm going to do minus. I'm going to do a minus X transform for the Y. Okay, and for the Z stays the same. Z transform stays the same. So I've only changed the X. So for the X, it's still going to be the Y transform now, and then the Y is going to be minus X transform. Now let's save. So the effect should be okay, nicer. All right, perfect. So now we just need to style these cards to make sure they're centered. So here we need to style those. Go back to the zoom in. We need to style the image. What's the class name? Image. So we start with the image style. I'm going to give it a border radius. Oops. I'm going to give it a border radius of 8 pixels, the image and the container. And then I'm going to target the actual individual image. So we have smoke, and then we have monkey. So each image is a class name, and then paste. And then we're just positioning those based on the image. Okay, so now, as you can see, looking nice. Okay, so that's the effect we're looking for. So yeah, that's it for the sections. I'm just going to take a break and do the animations after the break. Now that's where the cool stuff is going to begin. Okay, so I'm just going to continue from where I left off. Now, there's no animations. So if I go to the original project, as you can see, we have the horizontal scroll animations. Okay, so let's start with the horizontal scroll animation for these cards. Okay, so what I'm basically doing is I'm using a wrapper around the cards so I can reuse that component on other elements. Okay, so let's create a new component. Let's go in the components folder. Let's name it horizontal wrapper. You can name this whatever you want. .tsx should be wrapper. Okay, so yeah, like that. So it's going to be a functional component. So don't forget to use client. It's a client component. Okay, so now let's save. So this is going to be the children. Okay, so children like this. We're going to create an interface. Let's just name it props. And then we're going to do a node for the children. So here, let's get the children. Okay, so save. So we're going to wrap the component, especially the cards. I'm gonna cut this. Okay, so let's do horizontal wrapper. Okay, and then let's save. So to see if this horizontal wrapper is working, I'm just going to give it an inline style just for testing purposes. I'm going to give it a background. Let's just set that to red. As you can see now, we have a red background, so that means our wrapper is working. So we're going to animate based on the wrapper, on the wrapper component. So I'm gonna get rid of the background. So for us to do the animations, we're going to be using motion div. It's actually a motion coming from Framer motion. So we need to import motion. So we're gonna do import. We're gonna import motion from Framer motion. So if you haven't have Framer motion installed, so just copy this or just go to the terminal and type in npm install Framer motion. Okay, so in here, I'm gonna take the children. I'm going to create a div, another div in here. I'm gonna say motion.div. Okay, so we're creating a div. Oops, motion.div. Never mind. So just do motion.div like this. .div, and then you put the children inside. Okay, we need a ref for this parent container. Okay, so let's do ref. I'm going to name it scroll ref. You can name it whatever you want. Scroll ref. Okay, so here let's do the ref. So const should be scroll ref like this. Scroll ref. We're going to do an HTML div element. Okay, so now we also need to import a few things coming from Framer motion. We need the useScroll hook. useScroll. We also need the useTransform hook because we're going to be doing some transformations. So now with those hooks, let's start with the useScroll hook. Okay, so let's go down here. Let's do const. We're gonna get scroll y progress. Scroll y progress coming from use. Scroll y progress is going to come from useScroll. Okay, useScroll. But here it's going to take an object, and then the target, the ref should be our scroll ref, but this should be target. Okay, save. So scroll y progress is like the horizontal progress based on the ref or whatever item that it's referencing. For example, if I go to the project, if this card is the ref, if I do 0.5, it's in the midpoint of this card, of this ref. If I do 0.2, it's like up here. 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, all the way to 1. Okay, so that's the scroll progress, scroll Y progress of whatever element you're referencing. Okay, so scroll Y progress, we have the scroll Y progress for now. We need to actually create the transformation. So in this case, we're going to transform the x-axis. So here, as you can see now, we're translating on the x. Okay, so now in the interface here, I'm just going to add one more. I'm going to add direction. For this direction, it's going to do the number, and then what else? I'm going to do a height. I'm just going to do, let's do any. Okay, so I'm gonna save. So we have let's do string actually. So we have direction. So direction is how many pixels I want to move to the on the x-axis. How many pixels? Okay, if you do minus, it's gonna go to negative. If you do positive, it's gonna go to positive. So that's the direction. So negative and positive on the x-axis. Okay, and the height is the height of the parent container. Okay, so now as you can see, now TypeScript is complaining we don't have these properties. So here, let's start with height. I'm gonna set to 40 rem, 40, and then let's do direction. I'm just gonna do, let's do negative. Let's do minus 1400. Okay, so it's gonna go to the minus x. Okay, so with the direction, so now let's do const x transform. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to use the use transform hook. So for the scroll Y progress, okay, so we're going to use two arrays here. So I'm going to explain. So when the scroll Y progress is 0, when it's like up here, when we're scrolling, when it's 0, we want to do nothing. So here's the transformation box. So we don't want to transform anything. So it's going to stay as 0. When scroll Y progress is equal to 0.1, 0.1, we just want to also stay at 0. Okay, when scroll progress is equal to 1, scroll Y progress equal to 1, and then I'm gonna put the direction because we didn't get the direction, did we? So here we need direction and height. Okay, so the values in between this is going to be between 0.1 to 1 is going to be automatically animated by Framer motion. So it's going to be gradually animated. It's not going to snap from 0.1 to 1. It's going to be slowly animated depending on whatever how many pixels we're trying to animate. Okay, so when scroll Y progress equal to 1, it's going to be negative 1400 pixels to the x-axis. Okay, on the x-axis, but in between it's going to animate to reach this value here. Okay, so what we need to do now in here, we just do style height. We're just gonna set the height to height, and then let's do the z index. I'm gonna set that to 5, maybe 6, and then we're gonna do position. We're gonna set that to relative. Position should be relative. Okay, so we have this z index, position relative, and also we want to translate on the x-axis, translate x, and then x transform. Okay, so there's one thing missing. We need to position absolute these cards. Okay, this is the original. The animation is working, as you can see here. It's working. Let's position absolute these cards. Page cards position absolute. Okay, so let's save. Why is there an error? position absolute. Okay, so as you can see now, it's working, but it seems to be going really fast. So what we need to do here, there's one more thing we need to do in here. So we need to do an offset. Okay, so we're gonna do, it's gonna be an array, start end, and then we will do end start. Okay, so now let's see. Okay, so now it's working nicely. Okay, so the horizontal scroll is working. So we created this component for horizontal scroll. We can reuse this component on any element, on any component we want to, to animate horizontally. Okay, so for example, if I want to use it on these cards down here, what I just need to do is wrap that. Where are they? Okay, this one I'm just going to collapse. I'm going to do horizontal like that. So this is going on the opposite direction. So this is going to be the positive direction. Okay, it's no longer negative, so it's going to go on the opposite direction. So as you can see now, it's on the opposite direction. Okay, so this one is going on the opposite direction, and this one is going on the opposite direction. Okay, so that's kind of the effect we're looking for. Okay, nice. Okay, let me double check here. All right. Okay, so it seems, let me double check. Inspect. So right is set to 0. I don't remember setting right to 0. Wait a minute. So it's an inline style. Okay, right is set to 0. I don't remember setting that to 0. Okay, so I guess we need to set right to 0 on the card here. Okay, so let's do that. Actually, yeah, we do. So I did it actually set right to 0. So here we're gonna do style, and then right, we're gonna set that to 0. Okay, so let's oh, wrong one. Let's refresh. Okay, so now it's much better. All right, so yeah, that's it for the horizontal scroll. So now let's do the text animation. Okay, so for the let's do this one actually, the full image. Okay, so for that one, we're going to full page. Okay, we're going to be using scale. Okay, so we need to import a few things. So we're going to import motion, these 3 things. Okay, same things we've done before. Scroll while progress, we've done before. Scroll while progress like this. Okay, so the section ref, we don't have the ref yet, so we're gonna do const section ref. It's a div element. Okay, so I'm just going to set the ref here, and then it's going to be ref equal to section ref. Okay, so what we're going to do here is basically just animating value between 1 to 0, like 0 to 1, like what we did before. Okay, scroll while progress, animating between 0 to 1. Okay, so depending on how much we have scrolled, that's what we're going to do. So let me just comment this. animate, animate, animate. Okay, let me just do this. Scroll by progress. Ah, yeah, is a value one between 0 to 1. Okay, so we're just going to animate this value between 0 to 1, and how much we have scrolled between 0 to 1. Okay, so now what we need to do now is animate the image. So first off, we're going to animate the scale. So I'm going to say const scale equal to use transform scroll by progress. So when scroll by progress equal to 0, I want so this is a scale. I want the scale to be 0. Okay, so when scroll by progress equal to 0.5, I want the scale to be 1. Okay, so here we're just going to have two properties, 0 and 1. So scroll y progress 0, 0. When scroll y progress, when the middle, I want it to be 1 full size. Okay, scale. So let's go to the image, motion.div. So the image should be in a motion.div. Okay, motion.div, parent. Okay, so I'm just going to do this as a motion.div actually. Motion.div, like so. And then I'm just gonna do style scale. I'm gonna set that to scale, and then I'm gonna save. So the image is now scaling, as you can see now. Okay, you can animate the X. All right, so image scale nicely. So it's same as this one, but here we're animating the x-axis. Okay, it's leaving the screen. So now we have this scale bit. We need to do the x bit. Okay, so we're gonna do const x transform. So x transform, use transform hook, and then when the scroll y progress equal to 1, when we have scrolled fully, okay, I'm going to set that to minus 1000 pixels. Okay, when we've scrolled fully, but when we're at 0.5, I'm going to set that as 0. And then also when we're at 0.1, I'm also going to set that. Let's do 0, 0, because we also need 0 here, and then save. So when scroll y progress equal to 1, we're going to do minus 1000 pixels. When scroll y progress equal to 0.5, it's going to be 0, but it's going to be really quick. Any values in between is going to be animated automatically by framer motion. Why do I have 2 commas here? Okay, so when it's equals 0.1 is 0, when it's 0, 0. Okay, so now let's save, let's scroll. So when scroll y progress equal to 1, the image should be moving to the left side on the x-axis. Okay, so now nothing happens because we haven't used the x transform yet. So we're just gonna do x transform like that, save. So now let's refresh just in case it might not work. Let's scroll. So as you can see now, the image is moving as we expect. Okay, nice. So the animation seems to be working nice. You can even do the opacity if you want for this image. Okay, we're going to do the opacity later. You're gonna see how opacity works, but it's basically the same thing, animating as we did here. We just put the opacity value. So now we need to animate. Let's see, what is the next section? So the next section is going to be this text. Okay, so we animate the text. I'm just trying to see what component I've done that in. Text section. Okay, so for the text section, we have a p tag. Text section. Okay, so p tag, we're just going to make this a motion. We need to import motion. So we're going to do import motion, the standard import of motion, and use scroll. We're going to do motion dot p, motion dot p. Okay, we're going to animate the p tag. So the ref is text. Okay, so this is going to be the ref for our animation. So what I'm going to do now, we're going to do scroll while progress. We're going to do start end again. Okay, scroll while progress, the progress of the y when we scroll between 0 to 1. So in this case, the parent, the ref, is going to be the container of the p tag. I think it's this div. So that's how the scroll progress is going to be based on. So now let's start with opacity. I'm gonna say const opacity. Okay, so for the opacity, when the scroll progress equal to 1, I want the opacity to be 1. When the scroll progress equal to 0.8, I want the opacity to stay at 1. And then when the scroll progress equal to 0, okay, when the scroll progress equal to 0, I want the opacity to be 0. Okay, but the values in between are going to be automatically animated. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to do the opacity in here. I'm going to do style, excuse me, opacity, like that. You don't need, because it's the same as opacity, you don't need to, do like this opacity like that, because it's the same. So just leave it at opacity. Okay, save. So now let's scroll. Should animate the opacity. As you can see now, the effect, the opacity effect. Okay, so our opacity is nicely working. You can mess around with these values here if you want. So when scroll while progress, let's say equal to 0.5, the opacity is going to still be at 1. Okay, you can mess around with these values here. So for me, 0.8 is good. Okay, so the opacity effect is now nicely working. So here, as you can see, the opacity is 0.8 or less, because the values in between are going to, so this must be 0.8, this is 1, 0.8, so the values in between are going to be automatically animated. Okay, so with the opacity, the next thing we're going to be animating is the x progress. Okay, so what you can do is you can also use a variable for direction here in the interface if you want to change directions of how the text is going to animate, scale, whatever. That's entirely up to you, but in this case I'm just going to be using a fixed value. So I'm gonna do const x equal to use transform. Okay, so for the x-axis, when the scroll while progress equal to 1, I'm gonna set the x transform to 0. When it's equal to 0.4, the scroll while progress 0.4. I'm gonna set the opacity to be also, oops, this should be 0. 0. Okay, but when the scroll while progress equal to 1, scroll while progress equal to 1, I'm actually no, 0. Scroll while progress equal to 0, I'm gonna do minus 1000 pixels. Okay, I'm going to animate from minus 1000 pixels. So this text is going to be coming from the left side. You can make it come from the right side, so this should be a positive value. So you can put a variable here, whatever text you want to animate, you have a different kind of positioning where it's coming from. That's entirely up to you. I'm just going to stick to a fixed value. And then here, I'm just going to do the X. Okay? So now, as you can see now, the X is working now. The text is coming from the left side. Okay? Nice. That's the effect we're looking for. So the other thing that's what we want to animate is the color. So the color, as you can see, is different. Okay? It's going to be super highlighted up here. It's going to be white, and in between it's going to be animating between the colors. So here, for the color animation, I'm going to do const. I'm going to do color change. Go to use transform. So for the color change, I'm going to do a lot of keyframes. Okay, I'm gonna do here. Actually, we need to start with scroll while progress. Okay, and then let's do some keyframes. Okay, and then here it's going to be the colors. So the next array is the colors. In this case, it's black. I don't want black. Okay, so I'm just going to paste the values that I've used. I don't want to go do them one by one from here. So when scroll while progress equal to 0, the color, I'm just going to paste the next array here. Okay, let me organize this. Okay, when scroll while progress equal to 0, the color is going to be this. When scroll while progress equal to 0.2, the color is going to be the same. When it's equal to 0.4, it's going to be here. 0.6, same colors here, until we reach 1. Okay, everything in between is going to be automatically animated. Okay, you can put a different color here. You can blend the colors, whatever you want. That's entirely up to you, depending on the scroll progress. Okay, scroll Y on the Y. So color change, we just need to put that here. We're gonna do color. We just wanna do color change like that. So save. So let's go back to the project we're working on. So scrolling down. As you can see now, the color is working as you expect. Okay, so nice. The colors are working. So the next thing we need to do, we've done the hover here. So the next thing we need to do is the animation of this section here. Okay, excuse me. I think this section is our last section to animate. Excuse me. Okay, I can't remember what I've named that section. Let me check. Okay, so page. Okay, yeah, so it's a video. So I'm just going to convert this into a motion, which we don't have. .dev motion. So let's go up here and we import motion. We need to import the rest. Use scroll and use transform. Okay, so we also need to give this a ref. Okay, so let's give the ref of video. So ref, we go to video, and let's save. So we should create a ref up here, video. Okay, so now that's the only thing that we need to do now is the animation. So we're just going to animate the opacity. I'm gonna say scroll while progress, the standard. Okay, scroll while progress using the use scroll hook. Okay, so now what we need to do is do the opacity. So const opacity. Okay, so for the opacity, when we scroll while progress equal to 0, the opacity is going to be 1. When scroll while progress equal to 0.665, the opacity is going to be 0. Okay, actually it's going to be stay at 1 when it's 0.6, and then it's when the scroll while progress equal to 1, it's going to animate in between the values to 0. Okay, and then the opacity is going to be 0 when from this here it's going to animate in between to 1 when scroll wipe from 0.65 to 1 scroll wipe progress. The opacity is going to be animated back to 0. Okay, let's do the opacity video. Let's do style, opacity. Okay, we just do that. Opacity, let's see if the opacity is being animated. Oh, it's here. So something is wrong. Direction is not defined. Okay, we can just import React from React here. So let's keep scrolling down. Okay, so as you can see, the opacity is being animated now. Okay, so in the original, when I inspect, actually you can see the opacity being animated slowly. Okay, perfect. So in the original here, we also scale. Okay, so we want to animate the scale. We have the opacity. We're gonna do const scale. Okay, equal to use transform. The scale is going to have a lot of values. So when scroll y progress equal to 0, 0.6, we have 0.8, 0.9. Okay, that's our values. So here, when scroll y progress equal to 0, it's going to be 1 for the scale, 0.8. I'm going to hold this, so it's going to be 0.8 again when scroll y progress equal to 0.8. Okay, so when scroll y progress equal to 0.9, it's going to be 0 here. Okay, save. 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. Okay, perfect. So now let's give it a scale to see if this works. So now we have scale. Now let's check it out on in the browser to see if we have the scale. Okay, so now the scale is working and the opacity is working. Okay. Yeah, that's the effect we're looking for. That's pretty much it for the animations. So let's start again from the beginning. I'm gonna make a full screen with the hover animation. Oh, there's a parallax here. I forgot to implement the parallax. Hover animation. But anyway, if you want to see the parallax, that's for the next video. I think I've done enough for this video. So as, on the original project here, there's a parallax here, as you can see here. Okay, so if you want to see that, just let me know in the comment section. But I think I'm done for this video today. Okay, so here there's plenty of animations here. If you want to see anything else, just let me know in the comment section. And yeah, don't forget to share, like, comment, and subscribe on my channel if you're new. I'll see you on the next one.